Hi everyone, this is Dr. Karan Madan, the founder of Watch Enthusiast India. And for this year, I'm starting a new series of Collector's Perspective. The hobby is nothing without buyers and collectors, and we can talk about brands and manufacturers and design to our heart's content, but it always pays off to talk to actual collectors. And with that, I would like to introduce our first guest on this segment. Kunal Khemka is an entrepreneur and a businessman based out of Kolkata. He has loved mechanical objects since early childhood, including aircraft and automobiles. And growing up in India in an extended family, he got indoctrinated into horology by his watch loving uncle. Let's welcome Kunal to the show, please.
Hi, Karan.
Hi, Kunal. How are you doing?
I'm fine, thanks. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well. Thank you. Thank you for taking the time out for this interview.
You're most welcome.
So dive in right away. How did you get into the hobby of watch collecting?
Um, I think I think there are two elements to this. One is, as you said in the introduction, I grew up in a joint family, and this was in the 1980s, and there was no internet, no social media. But my uncle, my father's younger brother, he loved watches,
Okay.
and I got most of my tastes and everything from him, more than my own father. And I mean, that's the impetus
Wow.
about loving watches. And secondly, I think maybe it has something to do with my zodiac sign. I'm an Aquarius, and as such, I'm a dreamer and have a vivid imagination, and I love mechanical objects. It's just a boy thing. I mean, I love aircraft, automobiles, watches, anything mechanical. It just fascinates me.
So yeah, I can certainly understand where you're coming from. Okay, so what was your first ever watch? I mean, tell us the story behind it. How did you get it? What happened to it? If it's still with you?
Okay, I think I was 11 or 12 years old, and I wanted a watch. And this was the late 1980s, I think 1989 or 1990, and I was obsessed with Tag Heuer.
Okay.
I was obsessed. I mean, what did I know? At that time, it was a big deal, and to an 11-year-old, it was a big deal. And this was on a trip to, I think, Singapore, and I drove my parents crazy. And ultimately, I got this. I forced them to buy me this.
Okay.
I still have it. It's the Formula One. I still have it in the box,
Okay.
but I preserved it, but I haven't got it serviced, um, and the strap kind of broke.
Okay.
That doesn't matter. I mean, it's just like a childhood treasure. I mean, I'm sure I could get the watch serviced,
Right.
but the strap I don't know. But it just brings back a lot of memories. I mean, at that age, this meant the world. I
Yeah.
mean, for an 11-year-old, this is probably the equivalent of buying a Patek or a Rolex.
Oh, sure, definitely. An 11-year-old with a tag Heuer, that's something pretty cool, you know. I think the first watch that I had was a digital Timex. Do you still wear this watch by any chance?
No, I kept it. I haven't thought about how to get it serviced.
Okay.
I'll think about it, and let's see now. Since I have a son,
Yeah.
who's almost 6 months old,
Oh, congratulations.
thank you. I have more reason to find a way to get this watch fixed.
Right. Right. Okay. So walk us through your collection. How has it evolved from the first tag Heuer?
Um, okay. When I was 17, my mother, well, now my late mother, she gifted me this Ebel. Um,
eBay. Oh, nice. That's pretty cool. Yeah.
so I was 17 years old, and I was in boarding school, and and she gave it to me because I absolutely loved watches. For a 17-year-old, an Ebel was like a really, really big deal.
Right.
What's Ebel? And It works perfectly. It's almost a new condition, and I've worn it a lot.
Hmm.
Worn it a lot, and I still wear it. I love it. I mean, it's a stainless steel watch with gold accent on it.
Right.
It's small by today's standard, but it still has some wrist presence.
Right. Now,
Almost
Ebel
20.
watches are pretty underrated, I believe. Even now they don't get that much appreciation from
They don't.
collectors.
And actually, I haven't followed what's happened to the brand. I
Hmm.
have no idea. I think they became a only women's brand or something. I'm
Right.
not sure.
Right.
But
Right.
this watch, I mean, I just love it.
Uh-huh.
I just love it for the memory, for the sentiment.
That's nice. That's very
And,
nice.
yeah.
Okay. So what's next? What came next then?
There was another watch which I loved, which unfortunately got stolen. It was Cartier Pasha
Oh, okay.
chronograph.
Okay.
Again, it was a gift from my mom and dad. It was, I think, my 21st birthday present.
Okay.
But I was living abroad at the time,
Hmm.
and I had a robbery in my flat.
Oh my God. Okay.
And that day, I happened to be wearing the Ebel and not the Cartier, and the Cartier got stolen.
Okay.
Um, I really like that watch. Again,
Hmm.
that was a quartz Pasha chronograph
Okay.
and lovely watch.
Yeah.
I miss it. And this year, last year, when Cartier reintroduced the Pasha,
Yeah.
I was kind of very happy because I'm like, it's a lovely design,
Right.
and let's
Right.
see where
Certainly.
Cartier goes with it.
Oh yeah.
Now
Yeah.
with
Absolutely. Yeah.
now with better movements
Hmm.
under Cartier's own belt, let's
Yeah.
see what they do with it.
Yeah.
And maybe tomorrow, if funds permit, just from pure sentiment, I would love to have one.
Well, why not? I mean, I think they've done a good job, Cartier, in the last few years, and bringing not only good watches but also, good movements to the fray. And I think they're on the up as a brand. So, from your history for so far, I don't think you're averse to a quartz watch, right? Because
Not
some collectors are completely into automatic and they detest quartz watches.
at all. Not at all. Um, Sometimes there's less headache in having a quartz watch.
Right. No, I completely agree. I
No,
would
no,
readily pick up a G-Shock over any of my automatics on any day. I agree.
I love G-Shock,
Yeah.
and I love all kinds of watches. Okay, what's next? It's another quartz watch.
Okay.
My parents had, actually, it was my mother's business.
Hmm.
She had one of the first Titan showrooms in Calcutta.
Oh wow, I didn't know that. Okay, okay,
When Titan was starting up in
right.
the late 80s, early 90s, they were advertising for franchise partners, and they were not what they are today. And we had a location, and my mom was looking for things to do,
Hmm.
and
Okay,
we had the location, and we got the franchise, and we started a showroom. So it was basically a business looked after by my mom. We, I think, had it for about 12 years.
okay.
Um, so Titan used to have dealers meet every year, sometimes in India, sometimes abroad, and they paid for everything.
Okay.
So they've had it in Pattaya, they've had it in Goa,
Hmm.
they've had it in Colombo, Sri
Okay.
Lanka.
Okay.
In the main event, this was in 2005. It was, I think, the 100th anniversary of the Tata Group,
Oh, okay.
and they gave every dealer this watch.
Okay.
So it is it is not, doesn't say Titan. It says
Okay.
Tata,
Okay.
and it's got JRD signature on it.
Okay.
And at the back, it just says, Century of Trust, 1904, 2004.
Okay.
So it's a really lovely dress watch.
Hmm.
It's quartz and it works perfectly.
Okay.
All
Wow,
it
that's awesome.
all it needs is a new strap, and this is a treasure because you can't buy this.
Amazing.
This is not
So,
something you want to part with.
yeah, certainly not just your collection per se, but this is kind of a family heirloom now. Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, why not?
So what? Okay. I'm sure you've gone through a lot of watches in all these years. Tell me about three of your most favorite watches.
Okay, I'll go in sequence.
Sure.
First is this uh, vintage 1675.
Okay.
Um, Again, this is concerns my parents.
Hmm.
I think I've spoken about my parents a lot as of now, but this was, I believe, a gift from my mom to my dad sometime in 1972.
Wow. Okay.
They got married in January 1973.
Hmm.
And I don't know if you're familiar with Calcutta, but the Great Eastern Hotel,
Hmm.
they had these shops on the by the pedestrian crossing
Okay.
in the main road, and
Uh-huh.
one of the shops was a famous Rolex dealer in those
Okay.
days.
Okay.
And apparently, my mom bought this for my dad for about 3,000, 4,000 rupees back then.
Back then. Wow. Okay.
And as a child, I've seen my father wear it a few times. He doesn't really enjoy watches. And sometime in 2008, I just found this watch and another watch in his cupboard. And my mom is like, go ahead and take it. It's yours. And
Because he's not going to wear it, you might as well enjoy it then.
I was traveling to Switzerland for
Okay.
some, and I gave it for servicing to a boutique in Zurich who sent it to Rolex. Now, I did not know anything about preserving the hands and preserving the all that. They did not change the dial, thank God. They
Okay.
left the dial.
Okay.
But I think they changed the hands and the
Okay.
bezel,
Okay.
which is
Okay.
fine. You know,
Right.
the saving graces, it was done by Rolex. It wasn't done by
Right.
anyone.
Right. Right.
And maybe they had to change the hands. There was no way they could keep it.
Hmm.
If Rolex had a way, they would change the dial too.
Sure.
They are very difficult to deal with. Any Rolex service
Oh,
center.
I agree. Yeah. I agree.
Once I did give it to Rolex in Singapore for servicing, and they were insistent on changing the dial, and I'm like, no, you will not touch the dial.
Hmm.
And the dial is, maybe 80, 90% of the value.
Right.
The
Right.
hands, you could always get vintage hands. I mean, I
Yeah.
won't do that, but you could.
Right.
Again, this watch it's brilliant. It fits beautifully compared
Hmm.
to modern Rolex.
Sure.
It works pretty decently.
Hmm.
And again, there's a lot of sentiment.
Has it
Uh,
lost accuracy, timekeeping accuracy, or gone off the rails?
okay, it's all right.
Yeah.
That's fine.
And that's okay. I mean, for almost a 50-year-old watch, it's perfectly fine, right?
That's fine. The watches are mechanical.
Yeah.
And many watches are handmade, and
Yeah.
they will have a soul. And watches will, malfunction or things will happen to it, and you have to live with it.
Right.
If you can't live with these things, then you shouldn't collect.
That's true. Yeah.
As I'm slowly discovering with some of my other watches, things will happen.
Yeah.
And once you get past the catalogs of certain brands and the videos with the music and things like that,
Right.
real world results of certain watches
Yeah.
tell a different story, and things happen. Watches lose accuracy. Sometimes you have to shake a watch for it to start, and
Certainly. Right.
then the weather plays a role. We live in a tropical climate,
Yes. Hmm.
and there's lubrication. So there's a lot of things
Absolutely.
on. Then there's magnetism.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And the biggest issue is lack of servicing in India
Hmm.
compared to, say, Europe or the US.
Right.
Okay, so the other watch I always wanted like a three-hander dress watch from a prestige brand. I was always obsessed with that kind of watch over a sports watch. In 2003, Vacheron had launched a beautiful dress watch as part of their Malte collection.
Hmm.
And I loved it. And I was young and too young, and it was something I couldn't afford.
Okay.
And I'm like, one day I gotta have something like this. And then few years later, I think 5 years later, Vacheron launched this watch.
Okay.
Uh, at that time, it was part of their patrimony traditional family.
Okay.
But several years later, they separated the patrimony family from the traditional family.
Right.
So it
Right.
now falls under the traditional family.
Okay.
So I remember I was in Calcutta airport. I was on a flight to Delhi, and I had a BlackBerry, and SIHH was just about to start. And
Yeah.
I just saw the new watch launches on screen before I boarded the flight. And I saw this watch. And I'm like, I'm going to have this one day. This was in 2009, January.
Okay.
This watch had no response in the market, nothing.
Right.
It totally went ignored.
Yeah.
Completely. 2 years later, I managed to buy this for myself.
Okay. How did that come about? Where did you buy it then?
I bought it in Singapore.
Okay.
That's another story. I wanted to buy the 1921, the historic 1920.
Right. Yeah.
And I had placed a deposit for that watch.
Okay.
And they said it will take 6 to 8 months. There was a waiting list.
Okay.
After 1 month, I got a call, your watch is ready.
Okay.
And I got cold feet. Because it was a really expensive watch, and I just wasn't ready. I just wasn't ready. I didn't think I deserved it.
Mm-hmm.
And 1921 and this model have the same movement.
Right.
And this is half the price.
Okay.
And subconsciously, I love this much more. I love this much more than the 1920. And I asked them, can I change it? And they're like, no problem. And the amount of my deposit took care of the cost of this.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Big difference. And I picked, and I just love it. It's
right.
Last couple of years, this has become a modern masterpiece.
Right.
By Vacheron. It's become a bestseller.
Mm-hmm.
When I bought it, nobody wanted it.
Right.
It was completely ignored. No one cared. And today they say it's one of their best designs. And simple watches, the 3-handers or the 2-handers, are the hardest to get right.
Certainly.
And if tomorrow, God willing, funds permit, I would buy the same one in white gold.
Oh, wow.
Gorgeous.
I think that's a huge testimonial towards the watch itself, that you want another one exactly the same in different metal, of course.
The thing is, watches don't always excite me when they are launched.
Yeah.
What I see is most people want the watch the day it is launched.
Right.
But sometimes it takes time before you like a watch. And if a watch has been around for 5, 10, 15 years and you still want it, that's a good design.
Right. Certainly.
I'm not crazy for the watch launched this year.
Yeah.
And this will be relevant 10, 20, 50 years later. I mean,
sure.
When my son is old enough, this will be as young then as it is today.
Right.
And it's just lovely. It's everything about it is perfect. The proportions, the size, the movement, accuracy.
Yeah.
It doesn't pretend to be an accurate watch or a chronometer, but it just is.
That is brilliant. I think it just shows how much you love this watch. I think it's evident to us.
Yeah, it's a good watch. And ever since social media came about, I'm just seeing a lot of interest in this watch, a significant interest.
So we'll circle back to the social media aspect once you've told us about the third watch.
My third watch is the Lange one. And again, I did not know that the Germans made watches.
Okay.
This is in the early 2000s. I was actually on my way to Poland, where I was living, and I was flying through Zurich, and I had to spend a day.
Mhm.
And in the hotel room, there was a magazine in German. And there was an article on Lange. And there were these pictures of Lange watches. And I was like, what the hell is this? Because they looked really nice. They looked
Yeah.
awesome. But I'm like, I just thought the Swiss were allowed to make watches. Where did the Germans come? Then curiosity, creeps in, and I started ordering catalogs.
Mhm.
And the Lange catalog, it's not a catalog, it's a book.
Yeah.
And I wish I had saved them over the years. I mean, I
Okay.
don't know how they could send it free of cost
Wow.
because it used to be thick.
Mhm.
And they used to always talk about the Lange one first.
Right. Okay.
They always had a full page picture of the Lange one in yellow gold first and then rose gold.
Okay.
And I loved it. The design was amazing, but I knew nobody in the watch world at that
Right.
time.
Mhm.
And slowly, I got into the forums.
Mhm.
One of them was the purists,
Okay.
and slowly I started to, find out a little bit about the brand. And I used to keep looking at the pictures, and I just loved it. I'm like, then in 2014, I had a chance to live in Singapore.
Okay.
And Singaporean watch collectors are crazy about Lange. I
Mhm.
think probably one of the biggest Lange markets in the world,
Okay.
maybe top three. And they were nuts about
Mhm.
it. And for them, buying a Lange or a Lange one was like a rite of passage
Okay.
in watch collecting. Um, this crowd in Singapore, they never spoke about Rolex or Daytona or Pepsi.
Mhm.
At least at the time, they did not.
Okay.
They were concerned with Lange and they were concerned with independence.
Mhm.
And I kept seeing my friends buy a Lange, the first Lange or the second one.
Okay.
And I guess I got brainwashed at some point. And so I had my chance in October 2017.
Mhm.
At that time, Lange had upgraded the Lange one. In fact, they came up with the second generation with a new movement.
Mhm.
That's the one I have.
Okay.
Um, and I haven't regretted it one bit because ever since I bought it, the price has gone up
Okay.
and the discounts have come down.
Mhm.
And there was a waiting list for this model.
Right.
And it's still not that easy to obtain.
Okay.
You may have to wait, or whatever. It's a great watch. Again, it's quite accurate. There's a lot more going on in this
Right.
than the Vacheron. You
Right.
have stop seconds.
Mhm.
You have instantaneous date. You have a power reserve.
Right.
So it will need servicing
Mhm.
a lot sooner
Right.
because the energy being used and the gears and the
Right.
heat in the gears and all will wear out a lot faster.
Sure. Sure.
Instantaneous date and all. But
Mhm.
again, this is a piece for forever.
Yeah. Sure.
It means a lot. I mean, I know Lange collectors who have 5, 10, 20 Langes. It's
Mhm.
for them, they are looking at the more complicated chronographs.
Right.
But for me, this is the best design.
Right.
This is the
I think it embodies Lange in itself, right? The whole watch.
I still feel that if I were to buy a second Lange, I would love to get a first generation Lange one.
Wow. Okay.
The
Okay.
first generation.
Right.
I have both the movements, though, the
Right.
new one and the older one.
Right.
The older one's probably easier to live with.
Uh-huh. Okay.
This is much more sophisticated.
Right.
Got a free sprung balance spring and
Yeah.
all the Lange took all the bells and whistles out for this one.
Right.
I love their simple 1815 family.
Uh-huh.
They have a simple three-hander in that family. I love that too. I like simple watches. I think long term, if you talk 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, they're easier to live with,
Yeah.
easier to get serviced.
Okay.
These are
So
favorite three watches.
Yeah.
And
So from what you've told me, you are attracted towards high horology. You are attracted towards independence. Why not the ever popular Rolex, Omega, Panerai?
I think the problem with Panerai is that I love the design, but somehow they milk that design a bit too much.
Sure.
There are too many limited editions, and I can't tell the difference between them. And it
Yeah.
uh, ultimately a watch, a brand, or a design, a brand has to speak to you.
Sure.
And Panerai never spoke to me.
Okay. No, that's fair. That's quite fair. Yeah.
Maybe I don't have the personality to carry off a Panerai.
Right.
Maybe I'm the problem, not Panerai.
Hmm.
The history of Panerai is amazing. I mean,
Yeah.
it's Italian naval watches,
Yes.
but I think they went a bit overboard when it comes to limited editions.
Right.
Maybe a
But
bit like
isn't that the same case with Omega these days?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so. I mean, there are too many speedies, and I think the other
Yeah.
day I was asking friends, what's the difference between this speedy and that speedy and the new one? I'm like, it really, it made no sense. But
Right.
I like the Omega Speedy,
Right.
not necessarily the Moonwatch,
Right.
because I think Omega completely milked the Moonwatch a
Right.
bit too much.
Hmm.
But I like the concept of a Speedy
Right.
as a regular, as a daily beater.
Sure.
I like it because it's a chronograph. It's durable,
Yeah.
robust.
Yeah.
Um, you have a sapphire case back, so it's interesting when you want it to be, and it's well priced. So yes, I I would like some kind of a Speedy
Hmm.
in the future. I like the new one a lot,
Right. Okay.
and I'm sure they'll roll out that movement.
Yeah, I
In,
mean, that's the plan from Omega. They've discontinued the previous one, and this is quite similar to the original, and therefore they want to roll it out as a regular staple in their portfolio now.
so um, so I would, yeah, I think I would like an Omega at some point.
Hmm.
Um,
Currently, you do not have an Omega,
no, I don't.
okay, and no Panerai, obviously, but you do have a vintage Rolex.
And
Yeah.
I like Rolex. I love Rolex.
Hmm.
I have a lot of respect for Rolex as a organization, how they
Yeah.
make their watches.
Right.
I've read about their facilities, how how computerized it is, and
Hmm.
it goes underground, and it's robotic, and
Yeah.
how they make their own gold, and it's unbelievable.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder why they don't make aircraft and why they make watches. But I don't like this concept of artificial scarcity.
Well,
Uh,
do you think it is artificial scarcity, or is it?
whatever, whatever it is, it doesn't make sense. I mean, just 2 hours ago, my wife and I went to the mall in Calcutta, and we just went to the Rolex showroom. It was just there, and they had like 4 or 5 watches
Yeah.
on display, and the girl is like, they're all sold out. It's complete lies because they don't
Yeah.
have the stock.
Right.
It I can't understand that.
Right.
You can't buy a Datejust. You can't buy this. You can't buy that. You have
Yeah.
to beg your AD.
Yeah.
That puts me off. And I mean, again, I don't mind having one Rolex.
Hmm.
Um, maybe I like the Milagros.
Okay.
I like that one. Maybe it's
Yeah.
got a scientific theme.
Basis to it. Yeah. Exactly.
I like
Yeah.
that. I'm not crazy about the new Pepsi or the new Daytona. I'm not
Right.
crazy about that. I can,
But even with the Milgauss, though, I mean, the technology is outdated, to be honest. I mean, if you're just talking about anti-magnetic capabilities, there are watches that and movements that are far more capable than it, I guess.
I think it's the underrated Rolex.
Right. Right.
It's nice. Another Rolex I love is the Explorer in white.
The Polar with the 42 mm. Yeah, that's a good one.
The one you have, I think.
I do. Yes, I have that.
I love that.
Thank you.
I think white watches,
Yeah.
if done correctly,
Yeah.
have a gorgeous charm to it. And
I agree. I agree. In fact, I'm also a white dial fan myself. So nicely done white dial appeals to me a lot. I agree.
yeah,
All right. So, how about what kind of drove you towards independence and high-end technology?
um, I guess that's what I knew.
Hmm.
That's what I always knew. Dress watches, and um, I guess I like the history of these brands, the history, and watches that are slightly formal yet very
Right.
versatile.
Hmm.
Uh, I like that, but maybe that's where my tastes came in.
Yeah.
But now I have a lot of friends who love the Speedies and love the Rolex, and I'm learning about that now, and I need that in my collection
Right.
because dress watches, watches made of gold are limited.
Right.
Uh, I mean, there's only so much you can do with it,
Yeah.
and with the pandemic, their appeal may be even more short-lived.
Hmm.
So I don't want any more dress watches
Right.
for the time being. I want watches that I can wear more freely and enjoy them without, the fear of scratching them or banging them. Regarding independence, there's something about one or two watchmakers who create beautiful watches and manage to have a global following.
Hmm.
Um, there's something personal about it.
Sure.
Uh, Something personal, it's like buying a painting from an artist.
Right. So
Uh,
there's nothing else like it in the world.
Nothing else. When you buy watches from brands, even when you buy from a Patek or a Vacheron or a Lange, you're buying from a global corporate.
Hmm.
When you buy an independent, you're buying from a individual.
Right.
And by independent, it could even be like a micro brand.
Hmm.
Today, you have
Sure.
several micro brands that
Sure.
won't have amazing movements, but the whole concept, the whole execution it blows you away.
True. I completely agree. As a micro brand fan, yeah, I agree.
I think you need a mix of all. You need the Speedy, the Rolex, the Patek, and you also need the
Right.
small guy.
Oh yeah, certainly. I
Mix,
agree.
mix.
Yeah.
And that's what makes it so much fun.
Yeah.
Um, and yes, I mean tomorrow, the, if there's an opportunity, I would love to, go inside the world of
Hmm.
independence and micro brands.
Sure.
I've been following some of them since a while, and they're just doing unbelievable stuff. Many of these independents, the watchmakers, they were basically contract watchmakers,
Yeah. True.
likes of Lange, Patek,
Hmm.
VCA, and they still are many of
Yeah.
them. But they created their own brands. They're just doing amazing stuff.
Okay. Since you're already in that tier of a Vacheron and a Lange, what are your views on a Patek? Would you want to own one, and which one? And maybe an AP in the future?
I love Patek. I love the history. I love their achievement. I mean, I have full respect for their achievements. They've always been a very financially strong and stable company, which is something you can't say about Lange or Vacheron.
Right.
And because of that, their watches enjoy success at auctions and
Hmm.
high
True.
resale,
True.
and they have a lot of brand power.
Yeah.
Uh, that said, there's a side to Patek which I don't like, which is everybody wants a Nautilus
Well. Yeah.
and they want an Aqua Knot.
Yeah.
And the sad thing is, the watches that are truly Patek, you can buy easily.
Yeah.
You can buy the annual calendars, the
Right.
world time,
Right.
you can buy the Golden Ellipse,
Hmm.
Calatrava. You could probably buy them at a discount. And
Sure.
that's what really makes them Patek.
Right.
That you can get. but you can't get a Nautilus. Everybody wants to hype the Nautilus up. I don't understand that. And I feel that
Yeah.
I feel that this is a game, and I think the brands are part of it.
If you're right in that, I completely agree to a certain extent. The brands have to be in cahoots with the whole scenario. Otherwise, this would not be perpetuating for so long.
Yes, I would like to own a Patek at some point. I don't know which one.
Mhm.
I think nothing from the current catalog.
Okay.
So I'll wait. Let's see what they come up with.
Sure. I'm sure they'll surprise you in some way.
Yeah, because they've had two steel Calatravas.
Mhm.
One was the 5212
Right.
weekly calendar, which is difficult to get. But then they had the other one to celebrate the new factory. So maybe that's a trend we'll see from them.
Sure.
I'll know when it's launched.
Yeah.
Probably going to be like a love at first sight. AP, I'm not sure about AP. I like the Royal Oak. I like the simple, basic Royal Oak.
Mhm.
I'm not sure how badly I want it tomorrow.
So you haven't kind of made up your mind on it yet.
I mean,
Okay.
I'm not crazy about AP.
Would the code 1159 appeal more to you than the Royal Oak line?
Not at all. Something's missing from that.
Right.
I have to see it in the flesh,
Okay.
but something doesn't add up for me with that,
Okay.
with that design. I know people who love it, who think this is a really cool design, but it doesn't add up for me.
Okay. So in terms of independence, I'm sure you're following the trends of Ming, Kurono, as well as a few other. I don't know if you're following Japek. They are a very good brand out of Poland too, and I'm sure you must have heard of Konstantin Shekin anyway, right? So these guys are technically micro brands, but they are so high end that they are almost at the level of independence. Would you have views to share? Yeah.
Kurono, okay. Hajime Asioka, his namesake brand, is an independent.
Right.
But Kurono is the micro brand.
Sure.
So he makes money from Kurono, and when he launches a watch, it's first come, first serve.
Sure.
Ming is first come, first serve.
Yes.
Ming is, I think, also a micro brand, but
Yeah.
beautifully executed.
Sure.
Chaikin, I think, is a true independent.
Yeah.
Chaikin, okay, became famous because of his Joker watch.
Yeah. Sure.
But the guy does some of the most complex clocks in the world. He has a range of Islamic clocks.
Okay.
It can blow anyone away.
Okay.
That's what he does, and he's made some really interesting watches. But the Joker made him famous.
Right. Would you want to own one of these micro brand / independents in the future?
Of course.
Yeah.
I don't know which one, but of course, I like Ming a lot.
Right.
I like Kurono a lot. There are some others too.
Yeah. Okay. Thoughts on FP Journe?
I love the brand. I love the brand, but I won't say similar to any brand. There's no brand where I like everything they make.
Right.
You always like some models, you dislike some models.
Sure.
Same with Journe.
Yeah.
Some of his pieces I love.
Okay.
Some of them I don't like at all.
Okay. Which ones do you love then?
I like the Chronometra Sovereign.
Okay. I think that's a very good one. Good choice.
I love that.
Yeah.
Then I love the Octa Lune, which is dial has a lot of empty space and has a sub dial for the time and seconds,
Right.
and a power reserve and date. And I love that model in salmon or whatever color they call it.
Sure.
I love.
Does that remind you more of the Lange one? Is that why it appeals to you?
I like the off-centered.
Right.
Off-centered look.
Yeah.
And the way Journe does it, It's very artistic. It's lovely. It's there's something about that his aesthetic. I love his new resonance.
Okay.
But I'm still trying to figure out, understand it. Yeah, I like some of his models. I like his new astronomia,
Astronomy, yeah.
his super complicated watch, and the whole thing operates through the crown. That's an unbelievable achievement.
Yeah.
I love his Elegant, the quartz watch.
Yeah.
That's also a really interesting story. I mean, I think the story is that the wives of his male clients complained that you make watches for men, but you don't make for women. And that's what got him to design that watch.
Right.
But then the husbands liked it so much that he had to make a male.
Wow.
That's a lovely watch to own. I mean,
Yeah.
I would love to have that.
Sure.
And that's like a hybrid quartz.
Right. Right.
I would love to get that.
Well, let's hope that happens soon. Coming to, I think there's we love to buy watches, we love to try watches, but are there any regrets in the hobby for you? Any watches that you missed acquiring? Any watches that you sold, or or any watches that you regret purchasing?
I haven't sold watches until now, but if I have regrets, maybe I should have. There could have been an opportunity or two to get a Rolex, a Rolex, which is probably impossible today.
Okay, which Rolex was it?
Any Rolex, it could be.
Okay, right.
Any Rolex
Right.
would have been a good thing because it's a good beater to have.
Yeah.
It's a good daily watch to have. It's a good, in Indian conditions and living in this country, traveling in this country, it would be a good watch to have. I'm sure I had the opportunity, I just didn't see it.
Yeah, I think we all did. I mean, just as recent as 2016, I was offered a discount on a Rolex Submariner, and just to pass that up, and then now realize that what a mistake we made.
That I think that's a regret because that could have been a wise decision.
Right.
Just I don't know. I just didn't. I didn't see the importance of it, or I didn't see where Rolex is going. And today, you walk into a showroom and they don't have anything to sell.
Right. And we're circling back to Rolex right now, but just to put it out there, the Oyster Perpetuals and the Datejust used to be there. Is still their bread and butter, and you still can't buy them. You can't buy them at retail. Forget about the professional models. Forget about the steel models. You can't buy an Oyster Perpetual or a Datejust. I think that's pretty ridiculous as to what the state of the brand and the sales perspective has come to.
Absolutely.
So, okay. So, let's talk about something philosophical. What does watch collecting signify for you in your life? Do you think the hobby can mean more than just buying and accumulating watches?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's either about sentiment or memories or a design that drives you crazy, or there has to be some meaning to it.
Right.
Or some story to it. It's not about just buying and accumulating. That's not me as a collector.
Sure.
That's not me as a person. I mean, and trust me, it's buying and accumulating. It can be a headache.
Certainly.
I knew it's okay, but then after some time, you will need to get it serviced.
Right.
Servicing is not exactly cheap.
Oh yeah, certainly. I agree.
And in India, I don't know the state of servicing in India, at least for many brands. And even if they claim to service watches here, certain brands, I would be careful.
Yeah.
I would be very, very careful. And if you have a lot of watches and you have to take that into account, I just would like to have a few watches that are a good mix of, different genres. And I'm increasingly attracted to watches that have been in catalogs of brands since a long time. Because those designs, some of them haven't aged badly.
Right.
They've aged well.
Yes, true.
They still look relevant today. And I'm more attracted to those watches. I think many watches, new watches just don't do it for me.
Okay.
I think there's a big um, creative crisis in the industry.
Hmm.
Um, like I said, micro brands are doing better designs than many mainstream brands.
Sure, sure. I think the Swiss industry is an evolutionary process. They'll perfect one design and keep evolving it rather than, and that's where micro brands have the freedom to experiment with colors, case designs, shapes, sizes, etc. So I think it's both aspects of the industry are very important for all collectors to experience.
But sometimes when you see a brand like Ming,
Hmm.
and you see their design, and then you see the top Swiss brands, it makes you wonder,
Yeah.
really makes you wonder that where, I mean, a brand comprised of 4 people is doing
Yeah.
more daring design
Right.
than historical brands who
Right.
can't, I mean, they can't remove a date window. Scared of removing a date window because
Yeah.
they'll sell less watches. I think sometimes it would help brands if they actually listen to their customers.
Right.
Brands pay a lot of attention to bloggers.
Yeah.
They woo the bloggers a lot with free trips and
Hmm.
this and free that. They should
Hmm.
pay attention to their customers and what they want.
Right.
I think there's probably a disconnect somewhere with certain brands.
Right.
Because year after year, you see models that I mean, they don't inspire one bit.
Right. No, so I guess that's where micro brands again shine through independence as well because they have a limited customer base and consequently they can engage with them far better than one of the Swiss houses, of course.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Good. I think we're taking away a good perspective from here from this conversation that both sides are necessary. It's not just one aspect or one line of collecting or thinking that a collector should aspire to. Okay, let's move on. You are in a unique position in the hobby in that you write for online publications about this passion of ours, right? So,
Mm.
how did that start? Where all have you written about watches, and what do you want to convey through your writing?
I had my first opportunity, I think 5 years back.
Okay,
I was asked to write a piece for the Week.
yeah,
They are the owners of Watch Time India.
right.
I wrote a piece for them. After that, I wrote a piece for Swiss brands
Hmm.
online community website totally on my own. And then I've had a chance to write for Deployant
Right.
in Singapore.
Hmm.
And then I was interviewed by this English publication, and I wrote a small piece for a Australian publication. I enjoy writing. I think it's a strength.
Yeah.
It compensates for my lack of math and science. Um, I like writing. I like writing from a collector's perspective, or what I feel. I can't write like a blogger.
Yeah.
When I read the different blogs, and you read about the same watch, you can't. It's the same article,
Right.
read 5 times or 10 times.
Right.
I just have my own way of conveying things, and I enjoy it. I've written about my own experiences, or I just write about what I feel,
Yeah.
and it's something I like doing, and I'm doing a lot more of it now.
Yeah. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna link some of your articles that are already published online into the description when I put this video online.
Okay.
Okay, so people can our viewers can definitely read through those articles from you.
Okay.
I certainly think we need more inspired writing from collectors like yourself because there are too many blogs around. There are too many uh, paid journalism around. So it's always fun to read. It's always informative to read other people's perspective on this.
Yes.
Okay, since we are a little short on time, we're gonna rush to the next part. So what watches next? What are you planning to get next? What are your short-term goals and long-term goals?
Uh, I think short-term goal, I think I would like a good beater,
Hmm.
daily beater. I think uh, the new Speedy is a good,
Yeah.
it's a watch that has ticked a lot of boxes for me.
Hmm.
Uh, I like the Moonwatch aesthetic. I could live with it. It's a great design. It's a timeless, iconic design.
Right.
Um, and it would fit. It would fit well with my Rolex and my Lange,
Hmm.
because the vintage 1675 has also been to space. I think it
Right.
has.
Yes, it has. Yeah.
And my Lange is an evolution of the original Lange one.
Hmm.
The Speedy is an evolution of, it's a third or fourth evolution.
Yes, true.
Um, I like the aesthetic, and if not this one, I like the other Speedies too.
Hmm.
But to have a watch that you can wear every day, which has such an interesting movement.
Sure.
You can see the movement, and the design is also so handsome. That's a watch which is really missing in my collection.
Okay.
Short-term goals. I would like to buy one or two G-Shocks.
Okay.
I think it's like candy. It's
Yes, certainly,
I have,
certainly.
I have one G-Shock, the classic one,
Yeah.
and it's amazing. It's like built like a tank. It
Yes, it
takes
is.
so much
Yep.
abuse and
Yep.
nothing happens. And
I agree.
I would love to have at least two more G-Shocks. And it's amazing how a watch which is, well, me and my wife got a good deal. We got two watches for the price of one.
Okay.
So we paid, I think, $100 for two.
Okay.
Like nothing. It's like getting it free.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
absolutely. Yeah.
and it can hold its own next
Oh,
to
yes.
anything Swiss,
Yeah.
any high-end Swiss. It's, I don't know how they do it. I would
Yeah.
love G-Shock. I also love Swatch.
Hmm.
Um, I have three System 51s,
Okay.
and this is the first one.
Okay.
This is from the first series.
You're right.
It was launched in 2013 or 14.
Hmm.
This is from the original 4 or original 6.
Right.
I love Swatch, just for fun. It could be the quartz ones too.
Right.
I love the James Bond one.
Oh, yeah, that's pretty cool, actually.
Fun. I mean, what the
Yeah.
hell?
Yeah.
Long term, I'd like to see what brands like Lange, PP, VC take out.
Yeah.
If they take out something that drives me crazy, and I can afford it at the time, or if it's a model that's been around for a long time, that's long-term goal. Maybe an
Yeah.
independent is a long-term goal,
Sure.
and also maybe studying auction catalogs is a long-term.
Okay.
Sometimes watches from 10, 15, 20 years ago,
Yeah.
watches that seemed inaccessible. Today you could get them at a fraction
Sure.
what they were at what they cost, but they're still amazing watches.
I think you just threw a curveball right at the end there, because not many people would actually put that studying auction catalogs as well as following auctions as a regular aspect of this hobby. So yeah, that's pretty interesting. I think that gives a lot of our members as well as a good perspective of what else there is in the hobby, just apart from buying watches and looking at watch posts on social media, because that's what everybody's doing these days.
Yeah,
We should do a wrist check. What are you wearing today?
I'm wearing a regular Seiko.
Okay.
Uh, this is a watch I bought in 2012,
Okay.
a year after I bought my VC.
Uh-huh.
When I bought my VC, I think for a year or so, I was acting like a watch snob. My wife actually loves Seiko, and
Uh-huh.
she made me buy this watch.
Okay.
And at the time, I was like, "What the hell? Why should I buy such a cheap watch?" And again, I knew no one. I had no friends to really guide me.
Yeah.
And this watch is just brilliant. I mean, if this was made by the Swiss,
Yeah.
it would cost 10 times more.
Oh, okay.
It's it's never needed a movement servicing as yet, and it's like
Yeah.
8-9 years old.
Right.
It's got a transparent case back.
Uh-huh.
It's accurate. It's a brilliant daily beater.
Yeah.
This Seiko at its best, and this is probably more in-house than the best of Swiss or German.
Sure. I get that. Yeah.
This regular Seiko is like this. It makes you wonder about Grand Seiko.
Oh, yeah. I think that is something you should seriously consider in the near future.
I'm happy they are in India right now. They have
Right.
an online boutique,
Yes.
and I'm studying it. I have seen Grand Seiko a few times,
Yeah.
but I would like to see it. I would like to study it more closely.
Sure.
I think Seiko is just amazing. It actually sometimes it makes the Europeans seem irrelevant.
Again, I think different ideologies, different products coming into the fray. I'm wearing a Seiko SPB 125 Ninja Sumo on my right wrist. This is the SPB 149, the limited edition 62 mask that they released for 2020, both 2020 editions, of course. And thank you, Kunal. Thank you for taking the time for talking to us. And I hope you take more part in WEI. I know you lurk around a lot. I know you post off and on, but I really hope you start posting a lot more and interacting a lot more.
Of course, of course.
All right. Thank you very much. It has been wonderful talking to you, and we'll see you around on the group. Take care.
Thank you.